So before I go into the details, right, just want to give you a high-level overview of what HeatWave is. So we provide a single service or data processing engine for OLTP, OLAP, machine learning, generative AI, and vector store that is for data that is stored across in MySQL as well as on data lake or object storage. The idea here is that we want to provide a single interface for your application development. You don't need to move your data around for all of these different use cases so that it makes this data more secure. We want to be able to allow you to very easily manage because now you're only interfacing with one single interface. And also from an application development perspective, right, because the service is built on top of MySQL and all of the syntax is used through MySQL. So whether you're using it for OLTP, OLAP, machine learning, vector store, or Gen AI, you are actually interacting through the MySQL interface. So from a development perspective, there's not a lot of changes or there's no high learning curve, right? If you're already familiar with MySQL or even if you're already familiar with any of your other SQL syntax, then it's very easy to pick up. So just on a high level, you have probably seen this a few times already, but we are the best platform for MySQL workload, right? We built on top of MySQL Enterprise. We are the MySQL team. This service is built by us. And also we have done a lot of new innovation for OLTP, right? For the MySQL workload. Some of the examples are JavaScript store program we have added, auto-indexing, for example. The second one is that we provide the industry best performance and price performance. So this goes across for all of the workload that we provide, right? In terms of machine learning, in terms of analytics, in terms of generative AI. We are providing also the benchmark is done by third party on GitHub, where if you want to try it out, you can also do that as well. From the OLTP perspective, we are seeing with the enterprise thread pool feature, for example, we are seeing 10x better throughputs than Aurora, and we are able to maintain the throughputs when the concurrency is high. The third one is about the data lake processing, right? So we want to bring the same capability, not just on MySQL, but also for any of the files or data that you store in object storage. So we are seeing more customers storing more type of data, structured data, unstructured data, semi-structured data in their data lake. And then we want to provide the same capability for them to process the data in the data lake. And the cool part of that is that you don't need to store the data into MySQL. We can process this data directly on the data lake. The fourth one is the Gen AI and ML capability. The whole idea here is that we want to make it very simple for our customers to use so that they don't really have to have the expertise in Gen AI or machine learning and still be able to use our service, right? So we want you to focus on your business use case, and then we can automatically automate the whole life cycle for you and then provide the optimal LM, provide the optimal machine learning model for you so that you can build your application or accelerate your application initiative quickly. And then the last one is that we are available not just on OCI, but we are available on AWS as well. So if you already are AWS customers and then you want to use HeatWave on AWS, you can very easily, we provide basically the same capability across OCI and AWS. For Azure, our approach is a little bit different. The Azure one is using the Azure Interconnect, right? So the HeatWave instance is still going to run in OCI, but your application will run in Azure. However, because we have a very close relationship with Microsoft, we set up this interconnect, which has very low latency. So a lot of our customers are okay with this approach as well. So from an application development perspective, right, why we think that HeatWave can help you to simplify your application development. There are a few points I want to point out. One is that, as I mentioned, right, we are built on top of MySQL. So any of the existing application will work out of the box without any changes, right? So we support basically the same as MySQL, standard base drivers, any of the toolings that you're currently using, right? Maybe you are doing data integration, maybe you are using BI tools. Those runs out of the box without changes with HeatWave. The second part I mentioned a little bit earlier is that there's basically, if you're already a MySQL user, right, there's really no very minimal learning curve for you, right? We use the standard SQL for OLTP for all of the use cases, OLAP, machine learning, and Gen AI. We have added this JavaScript store program support. So if you want to mix with some SQL or you want to use JavaScript to do manipulation of your data, then it's very easy to do that. We also have the MySQL Shell plugin for Microsoft VS Code. So that's one of the IDE that's very popular for developers to develop, right? So we built in with the MySQL Shell plugin, so you can very easily basically connect to your HeatWave instance on OCI or on AWS, and then the functionalities provided by MySQL Shell as well. The next thing is about like performance, right? So application development, if you're writing SQL, right, that's another thing is that a lot of the time maybe you will be spending time on improving the query. So what we have there is like autopilot indexing. If you need to improve the query performance, then it's much easier, right? You don't need to spend time really analyzing any of the slow query that's running in MySQL, and then we can automatically monitor the workload and then provide the secondary index suggestions to you. The other one is if you we notice a lot of our customers when they're working on their OLTP workload, right? It's not just point queries. It's not just very simple queries. A lot of the time there's joins, there's filters, and depending on the data volumes or the structure of the query, it can run slow in MySQL. We do have the in-memory query accelerator in HeatWave, which allow you to be able to quickly accelerate this query. So again, that's just one of the ways to help developers to quickly develop the application. And then for data that is stored in Lakehouse or object storage, right? So now if you want to expand your application use case to be able to allow your end user to access unstructured data, for example, we can very easily add to your application. And then the last thing is accelerate initiatives, right? The goal here is that because a lot of the time when we look at customers, especially when we're talking about machine learning or generative AI, usually that involves a few services. It's not a single service. I know that like our competitors have started to kind of combine or on top of it build a layer for it. But in general, we are still seeing a lot of customers doing the generative AI or ML within the application or using multiple services. So with us being a single service, one is that we remove the ETL process when you need to move around the data, right, from different services. Earlier I was saying that we automate the machine learning lifecycle so that it makes it very quickly or easily. We have seen customers when they're doing their own machine learning model training, it takes them like months to do it. When they come to HeatWave, it becomes weeks. So it really helped them to accelerate their application development lifecycle. And then as well as for Gen AI, right, I will show you a couple examples later that our interface to use for machine learning as well as Gen AI is very simple, and it's very few commands for you to need to do. So just highlight a couple things from this list here, right? Go into a little bit detail. From the current application perspective, right? So we do work with like ODI or Golden Gate, for example. So I don't know if your application will require to get external data besides MySQL, or if you are already putting the data into object storage. So we would work out of the box with Golden Gate and ODI. And then one of the way for using Golden Gate or ODI is that besides you can directly replicate the data from your data source database, You can also put it into object storage, and then we can use the HeatWave Lakehouse to ingest the data to process the data. And then if you're particularly looking for like analytics, we also work with OAC out of the box, so it's very easy for you to build any of the reporting capability or dashboard capability using HeatWave. The next one about learning curve, right? Basically, I think you have probably seen this already. We talk about JavaScript support adding to MySQL, HeatWave, and Enterprise Edition. Really, what the goal here is to be able to allow the customers to bring some of the logic in the application into the server side. So it makes the application lighter, quicker to develop, and then also eliminate some of the need, right? When you only really need to process data, you don't need to move the data from the database to the application to process. So that will help improve the application performance as well as help simplify the application development. And then the other one about the IDE, right? So this is just want to show you, right? We do have the MySQL shell for VS Code, so it's very simple. And then the cool thing about this is that you can write your application in the IDE, right? And then at the same time, you can run inside with the MySQL shell, run the queries during your application development so that you can test whether the result is correct or how the performance is and all that, right? So it's very easy to use and then bake into the IDE so that it helps you to develop your application. And then the next thing is about performance. I want to highlight again, right? So autopilot indexing is one of the things that we think would help a lot of our OLTP customers to improve their performance. Eliminates the DBA to spend a lot of the time to find secondary index to improve the OLTP workload. Really, what we have done here is that we have built a machine learning model, and then we monitor the OLTP workload that is running on MySQL. And then if there's any secondary index that can help improve the performance, we use the machine learning model to predict those indexes. We also provide the expected performance improvement as well as the storage impacts that you'll be seeing if you apply those secondary indexes. So this is really convenient, right? Because then right now you don't need to spend to look for what are the queries that are slow, how am I going to improve them, right? You can run it periodically and then get the result as your workload change. We can suggest different secondary indexes. We're not just suggesting to create, right? But we're also suggesting to drop. If your workload changes and then some of the indexes is not required, we will suggest to drop so that you can save the storage, and then with the secondary index, it may impact some of the DDL operations as well. So this is very useful for customers who wants to basically keep their OLTP workload performance consistent or keep improving it. So if you look at the interface here, right, it's very simple. It's a store procedure in MySQL, and it's basically you just need to specify the target schema, and then here's an example of the result, right? What are the columns that we are recommending? What's the reason? What is the footprint on the MySQL storage that we may expect? And then as well as the performance, right? High, low. So you can decide if you really want look at these, and then you can decide which one you want to add from the suggestions. And then from our internal testing, right, when we are comparing to like a human adjusted workload, right, through secondary index, we can see that we are actually very close, and sometimes we are actually providing better throughput as well, right, the one in the middle. And the last one, accelerate initiatives. You have probably seen this multiple times, but this is really getting a lot of interest from our customers, right? The capability of us adding generative AI, I think all of our customers are looking for one way or the other to incorporate generative AI into their application. And for us being to provide this capability within our service, in database automated vector store, make it very easy for you to create a vector store. In database LLMs, if you have cost constraint, or if you need to deploy your solution everywhere, as you know, GPU may not be available in all data center. And then so for the region that does not have GPU, you may run into problems, right? So the ability to run LLM within a CPU, and then we are available everywhere, allows you to be able to deploy your application everywhere and then be able to provide the same consistent result everywhere. And the last one is scale of vector processing, right? So in order to vector store help us to bring your enterprise content into our service, and then use this content as a context for LLMs so that they can provide better result or more accurate result. Vector processing allow us to be able to narrow down the context or the contents that you have in vector store, right? So you ask a question, we find the relevant information in the vector store, which is based on vector processing, and then pass it to LLM. So all of this make it very easy for you. And then we also have a HeatWave chart as a functionality. Basically, we can store the chart's history of so that when the person asks a second question, right, based on the first question it asked, we can provide more context or understand what is the intent of the user when they ask a list of questions. So all of this capabilities is available within the service itself. And then as here you can see, right, creating the vector store typically takes a lot of steps. And then with HeatWave, it's only one single SQL command. Similarly, for calling reg, right, which is basically searching behind the scene, we do a vector search based on your questions on the vector store, and then passing the relevant information as long with the question to the LM. We all do it behind the scene for you, so that all you need to do is to call this single one SQL command as well. The other thing we have also added to MySQL is for us to be able to store the vector store, we added vector as the native data type in MySQL. So that allows us to be able to store the embeddings into HeatWave or MySQL. And then the other part about is the similarity search, right? So we support most of the common functions or similarity distance functions within our service as well. So like for example, earlier you see that the ML_red, behind the scene we do actually call the this similarity search, but we also give you the flexibility, right? If you want to do it your own, you have some specific requirement that you want to do, you can also specify it as well. So just to show you how simple it is, right? These are all the APIs that we provide, right? Basically, we're talking about 8 of them. And then with just 8 simple SQL commands, you can basically build your generative AI application very easily. And of course, if you want to be more specific or have any specific adjustment you want to do, and then we provide the parameters for you to adjust as well. Any questions? All right. Then the other one I want to talk about is AutoML. Because of GenAI, I think a lot of the customers are not, when we talk to them, when they come to us because of GenAI, but a lot of the time when we talk to them in more details about their use case or their business needs, really behind the scene is they are looking for machine learning capability. So machine learning capability, we already have it for a long time. And the key point about our capability is that we automate the whole machine learning lifecycle for you. So the most time-consuming part of the machine learning journey for our customers typically is the model training. It takes a lot of time to understand your business problem, what is the relevant data, and then after that, when you start to find the machine learning model or train the machine learning model, There's a lot of steps and then a lot of expertise is needed really for you to be able to find the optimal machine learning model. And we automate that all for you. So if you don't want or you don't know how to do it, just pass us the right data for your business use case. We will automate and train the model, find the most optimal model for you. So the steps that like we automate, for example, right, you can see on the graph here is that the red boxes from pre-processing, algorithm selection, adaptive sampling to hypergraph optimization, hyperparameter optimization. This is all done automatically within our service. So then the idea here is that we can speed up this tuning process for you, and then as well as we do the training really fast as well. So in case of if you see your data start drifting or your behavior of your end user start changing, you can retrain the model very easily and very quickly. The other thing that we offer also is the explanation, right? We explain to you why the results of the prediction that we come out or the model. So you can see what are the features that is affecting the model that comes out with the result. So this is very easy to understand once you have the model trained, and then you will be able to explain to the end user why we predict the results that we are predicting, right? And then the use case that we cover is actually a very wide range. We support classification, anomaly detection, time series forecasting, regression, and recommendation system. So it really depending on your industry or your specific business use case, we can address them and then use one of these tasks to help you. And from the application development perspective, right, similar to GenAI, we are making basically very easy to use. I think we total have six command or 6 SQL statement that you can use for AutoML, right? Basically, it's just to train the model, score the model, predict the result once you have the model, and then explain the results or explain the model. So it's very simple to use, and really what we wanted to use to do for you to do is to focus on your business use case and the data that you want to use to train the model. I'm sorry? Can we compare model? Do you know, Sima? I think you can use the scoring to compare the result, but we don't comparing the model. Yeah, yeah. So any question from the application development perspective? Otherwise, I want to switch gear a little bit and talk about a little bit about security. That's the feature that we have on HeatWave. Okay. From the security perspective, right? I categorize them into 4. One is about access and authorization. One is about data security, regular compliance, and data residency. They are a little bit overlap, but I want to map to show you what are the features that is kind of associated into these categories, right? The first one is access and authorization. We know that the database that typically our customers use for is to store the most valuable customers' information, and then so their access control or authorization is very important for them. So MySQL definitely has its own authentication process, but we also integrate with OCI IAM as well, so that if you already created your user group, then now you can very easily to basically associate your business or MySQL database access or HeatWave database access through the OCI IAM. From the data security perspective, we encrypt the data at rest and in transit at all time. So there are options. So by that, by default, we use Oracle Managed Key. So, but a lot of our customers are looking for more control on the encryption, for example. So very soon we'll have bring your own key, so that you can bring your own key and then manage that yourself. From the a connection to the database, right? We also require, we can also have a SSL, we require SSL connection. So you can also use bring your own certificates if you want to verify the sender, for example. And then the next one is about regulatory compliance, right? So being the only cloud provider that support MySQL Enterprise Edition, the benefit of that is that MySQL Enterprise Edition already have a bunch of security feature where our enterprise customers are looking for. So what we have done here is basically to integrate this capability into the service, so that is making it available in HeatWave service. So the examples are MySQL Audit. MySQL Enterprise also support like data masking, de-identification, and also asymmetric encryption, key generation, digital signatures. So all of this is available for our HeatWave user as well. And then the last thing is about data residency. As one of the things is that, of course, we are available everywhere. So if you require in a certain location or a certain geolocation, right, then you can deploy our service in the corresponding location. But from a service perspective, right, no ETL that we mentioned earlier, that we don't need to move around the data, right, because we support a lot of these different use cases, so that's all of the data resides within the service. And then the machine learning model that you created using AutoML is also stored within the database as well. And then if you are using generative AI, right, so the option of calling out to OCI LLM versus the in-database LLMs, right, if you have really strict requirements, so you may not even want to call out to the OCI LLM models, then the in-database LLM model can prevent that, so that you can have basically everything within one single service. Just to go a little bit into detail, right? So we are always secure, right? So I think some of the capability is already there. And then I think the other aspect is about always up to date, right? As we are the MySQL team, right, we're able to provide patches, provide updates, provide security not just MySQL update, but security updates on the OS as well as on the MySQL very quickly and easily. So I think that is one of the advantage of being the owner of the MySQL and then offering the service on the cloud to be able to provide for that. Then this just kind of go into the details of how our authentication through the OCI identity works. Basically, what we have done is we have integrated with the OCI identity. When you try to access the database, right, we basically get a security token through the OCI identity, and then use that to authenticate to the database so that you can log into the database. That's kind of high level with this. The other one that I want to tier is this bring your own key. We have a lot of our customers asking for that. Again, this is also based on integrating with other OCI services. So the main one here is the OCI Vault. So basically what it is that the vaults will work with the key management service, and then we basically get access to the key through the vault, and then to be able to use the key you provided to decrypt the data when we need to access the data on the disk or on the object storage. The last thing is this bring your own certificate, right? If you want to have SSL connection when you connect to our service, you can also bring your own certificates so that you can verify the initiator or the connections. So again, we integrate it inside with the OCI certificate service. So the certificate is handled by the OCI certificate service, and then we basically make use of that to get the certificate when we establish the connection and also the verification as well. So that's kind of the high level I want to go over today. Any questions?